Hey, this is Tim Ripper Owens.
This is Brittany Slace from Unleash the Archers.
This is Amos from Death the Kings.
Hi, this is Heather Michelle from Grave Shadow.
This is Drog from Winter Hymn, and you're listening to the Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Hey, metal fans, we're traveling down the Sulphur Road today in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm pleased to be joined by Lariyah Hayes of Melodic Black Metalers Khaotika. Lariyah, thanks so much for joining us on the Great Metal Debate.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're here in St. Louis at Fubar, and what is the first night of a multi-state run out toward the West Coast for Khaotika. How exciting is it for you to be back on the road again?
Oh, very much so. You know, once you hit the stage once in your life, you just have that craving for the rest of your life. So it's inevitable. You have to play a show, period.
And the last time Khaotika went out on an extended tour, you were churning up the East Coast, sharing the stage with Death Thrashers, Yesterday's Saints, and American pagan metal bandits, Winter Hymn. Quite a varied lineup. What was that tour experience like?
It was great. You know, the variety of music was what made it so interesting because, by the way, we don't play black metal. We have a lot of influences, but it's really hard to put it in their shell because music is definitely influenced by black metal, but then with my vocals and with a lot of thrash, little inserts and rock and roll, heavy metal, and everything put together, it's really hard to put it in a particular genre. So then we have Yesterday's Saints, who actually they have death metal parts, black metal parts, and some hardcore parts to it. And then we have Winter Hymn, which is perfect power metal with pagan Viking stuff. It was just such a great bunch, and everybody was on a completely different mindset. So even just the exchange of conversations we had, it was just fantastic. And the guys, like everybody, was so outgoing, and it was so fun to hang out and just laugh at each other's jokes because everybody is different. So it was great time. I really miss them so much. In fact, we were just talking about them the moment we just arrived for the first show to play.
Beyond the camaraderie and the difference in talking music, did you find that you were able to maybe see some fans and share your music with folks who might not have come out to a Khaotika show before?
Oh, you know what? I think that, first of all, playing live shows, I know that people are like, oh, no, you have to do it for yourself and screw the others. You know what? If you want to go out live, you do it for the fans. And every time they show up and, trying to support, that's the whole reason to keep going with that. And they're not fans, really. They just become friends, or they become us because when they listen to us and they show that they actually appreciate it, it all makes sense. So I really hate to call anybody fans. I hate that. I really do. So it's a great feeling to have somebody chanting with you, even without knowing your songs, but just showing that music touches them. So that's the most important, completely most important.
Let's talk a little bit about the history of the band. When was Khaotika formed, and what was the initial concept?
The Khaotika was formed when I just moved to Atlanta from Chicago. I was previously in a heavy metal band when I was in Chicago, which we don't need to touch basics on. It really does not matter. So the same year, I knew I have to start something over and something darker that does not necessarily have any particular shape or current, something that will be just done by the feeling. That's why it's really hard to put it, in a particular genre, because I wanted to make it, what do you feel? Put it in music. If you feel melancholic, put something balladic. If you feel like you just want to kill the world, just put something, I don't know, some death metal type of rhythms in it. So, it started in 2000, oh my goodness, what year do we have? 17, yeah? So in 2014, and it was shaping over a year. And then in 2015, the first tour we went on just did not work out quite well. So, but that was our first tour in particular. So that was the beginning of Khaotika.
Did you grow up in a musical home background?
Actually, not really. The funny thing is that I grew up in a very Catholic family back in Poland, so I think because of that and because of everything I did not like about it was just building up as this whole anger, so that was the push for me as a early teenager, as a 12-year-old, I think, that I was just amused by looking at, not amused, but really influenced by seeing people, wearing different colors, because there was not really black metal in Poland back then. It was more I suppose just metal overall, and there was a lot of punks and a lot of skinheads. So and then black metal just grew over the time. But I guess in my childhood it was not that big. But still, to have that influence, see the freedom of music, that's what pushed me. So it really started when I was about 12. And I was in the industrial gothic band first, back in Poland. So we recorded an EP, and then it was just dragging because we were trying to figure out how to get it live, etc. So, but then after I went through high school and decided to go to college, the same year I moved to America. So we could not continue with that band, but I had to do something. So in Chicago, I was found actually by a local heavy metal band. So it was just progressing, from gothic to heavy metal, and now we're going all the way to all those darkness and so it's I guess it's just the development of your musical path of and it's definitely not the end of a different occurrence.
I do have one question going back to Hessler days. Our podcast, The Great Metal Debate, is a debate between 80s metal guy and more modern metal. You've kind of lived in both those worlds. Do you think that can there be a bridging between those worlds, or are they really trying to accomplish two different things?
I don't want to sound just like what's his face, Simmons from Kiss, because he's just getting way too dramatic with his all metal is dead type of comments. But it's really, really hard to top 80s music, 70s music. I'm a huge Dio fan, so to me, him and actually Freddie Mercury are my biggest influences in vocal. And then from 80s, I mean, you just cannot deny Maiden or Priest or Motorhead, period,
My co-host is going to crush me over this response, because that's what he thinks.
Yeah, because I mean, I love the fact that so many musicians are trying to come up with different sorts of music, but there's say whatever you want, but there will never be the same anthems ever. I mean, we can do whatever we want, but we always get back to what happened before, how it was, and even Metallica, how big they are, but they're still not going to get as far. I'm sorry to say, but it's true. They're never going to be Judas Priest, period. Nobody's going to say, I'm going to die for Metallica. And for Judas Priest, I'll tell you there will be a time. So, yeah, and so it's a progression of music. And now I think what is really messing up the scene, per se scene, is because there's so many bands now. So it's really hard to pick if somebody really has something to offer, because we're just floated with all those bands. And I'm guilty of that too, because I just do what I love, and there's many people like me, So, and back in the day, there was not nearly as many. So it was what was given that was loved, and that's why people have so much respect, because they only had a pool of maybe 5 to 10 bands to choose from the from dark sounds, and and so it was a perfect timing. And but I have to say, I'm sticking with the 80s, and yeah.
That's it. That's an answer. All right. Let's talk for a moment about your most recent release, the debut full-length album, The Flame Unleashed, which came out in 2015. Looking back, how pleased are you with this initial offering?
When you actually make it, you think it is somewhat how you wanted to make it, but then really the moment we were about to release it, we were like, okay, we should have changed this and that. But then on the other hand, I don't think there's a musician that is absolutely 100% pleased with their album, so I'm trying to give that benefit of a doubt, I suppose. But that was our first one, so we were still super fresh, and first year really, and it was after such a traumatic really event that happened. It was just, we were just trying to make a statement that we are not dead, and we're just going to continue no matter what happened. But from this point, I would probably redo everything in that album, but that's what started it, and that was genuine, that was raw, and that's how it was meant to be. So that's why I think actually that fans come back always to the very first releases and always compare that with the newer, more processed and more detailed albums. But then I catch myself on the same thing. I always go back to the early works. Even same with Priest, with Maiden, same thing, So, and then when people are asking me about to compare Paul Di'Anno to Bruce Dickinson, okay, that's unfair. So because their first ones are always the ones that stuck with me so much, and I always come back to the first one. So same thing with us. I think that even that is not perfect, it will still be our first one, how we started.
I totally agree with what you said earlier about how you guys really can't be pigeonholed into, you're certainly not classic black metal, but I do think that you have somewhat of a European sound. Is that intentional, or is that just does that just come out from your influence?
To be quite honest, I do not write music. So, but given who I work with, the guys are definitely influenced by European black metal and other bands, of course, from thrash and death. But most of what we listen to is European, because as much as we actually do have a strong black metal in America, for example, give Nightbringer, one of the best ones here. But Europe has something that everybody is getting influenced, whether we like it or not. So I would say that it's probably because that's most of what they listen to. Yeah.
On your initial EP, Bloodline Empire, you had a cover from Watain's They Rode On. Why did you decide to go with that cover?
First of all, Watain made a huge impact on me, but clearly I will never be able to replicate Eric's vocals because I cannot growl. But to me, it was more of a tribute to how much they mean to me. And, They Rode On is the only one that is really saying all the way through, and the lyrics are the most important to me. It's the journey of your freedom, really, and over everything I've been through with my life, it just felt like it's almost storytelling of something that I was a part of, which I'm pretty sure that most of fans feel the same way. And so this was just for the release of the first 100 EP of the 100 CDs, and then we just dropped it because that was the agreement with Watain, actually, because first I told them that I just want to make a tribute, and so they were actually pleased to hear that. And I told them that it's going to be very limited, and it's just done from the heart because it's so meaningful.
Now, I understand maybe there's a story about you and Watain, something about them returning a trailer to you?
Oh man. Yeah, my husband actually works in taxidermy, and he puts together, put together their stage sets. So all the props that you can see with the skeletons and stuff. I love your questions. Nobody has ever asked that. Yeah, so... Oh, yeah? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, so we were in a very good relationship with them. So right after their tour, when Watain returned our van, the trailer, they left a few surprises. So there was a case with we did not actually know what, but they just said dispose it on the way when you go, whatever. I was like, okay, fine. And then of course I'm too curious, so we were on the way and we opened it, and that stench was, I'm pretty sure that it was like for 10 miles. People were just dying around, because their fans are bringing them not only bones that are clear, but the actual like chopped off heads, pig heads and blood and stuff. So we had no idea. I mean, we had no idea that it's in there. We clearly know what they bring, and we just didn't know what surprise they left us. And yeah, so for the whole tour, it was... I mean, I'm used to that because of, working with that, but God, and that was 3 months straight, just closed, locked, so it was just like a fermented blood in there with rotting and, with a bunch of little worms. It was just gross. It was the grossest thing ever, but it was also so amusing because that's why they didn't want to tell us what it was. They just said to dispose the box. So
that's quite a road story. I don't think I've heard one like that. In addition to your vocal duties for Khaotika, you have some other projects, including a magazine. Tell us about Via Omega.
Oh, yeah. I see that goes from Winter Hymn, too. I love these guys. Being a stay-home mother, I figured that since I really want to be with my child throughout the whole day, but I also want to work. So to me, to make something with my time, because I just cannot sit, and do nothing. So aside of making art, I just wanted to do something that I will feel like work, but it will be also a pleasure. So there is nothing better to work with art and music. So Via Omega, as well as my Darkadia books that I do, it is a it's non-stop working with bands and artists, and doing a lot of stuff that other magazines don't want to cover because they don't get paid for that, because Black Veil Brides will pay them, but for example the band that just rose up but they sound so much better, they don't deserve to be there. And I am in support of the underground, and I always will be. So I thought it was needed, and it just keeps me truly occupied, and now it became something a big thing in the underground, and it's respected and appreciated, which means the world to me. So it's all worth it, really. So yeah, the nights I'm spending on work and the day with my girl.
I think it's just cool bringing back the old school hard copy magazine. I remember back in the day, showing my age, how I used to love to get those, and I love that you're bringing a new, fresh spin to that.
Definitely, and even the quality really matters because it's collectible, and I don't put like too much advertising, just friends to help them out. And nowadays it's just very, very thin paper with very terrible print and full, and like literally half of advertising, and there's not much information that people actually want to read. And I just want to bring back what was before, what I remember from my childhood.
I've seen on social media that you brought some throwing knives with you on tour. How did you get interested in that?
I've been throwing knives since I was 18, and that was my sort of a release, I suppose. And then ever since I moved to America, it just when you get busy with your life, you just forget about that. And then when I wanted to get back to that, we had an accident, and my hand was chopped off, so I didn't really have much of the feeling in it. So it took a while for my hand to be, to be able to hold that, to have that grip, to get precise. And so now finally when I'm being able to maneuver with my hand, so I was like, okay, I have to do something. And I love that feeling because it just makes you feel like a total badass, even if you're a girl. And also it's a sort of a protection, like even if you never use it going somewhere, but it just makes you feel protected. So it's a really cool thing.
The photos I saw on Instagram were a little intimidating, I'll be honest.
Good. Then it's good.
Switching topics with you, Lariyah. Khaotika hails from Atlanta. Tell me a little bit about the challenges of being in a metal band in the southeastern U.S., where Atlanta's a big city, but big stretches of the Bible Belt there.
I cannot get used to that. I am definitely not a southern person, so to me it's just a huge claustrophobic thing to be around. And we are anywhere I move in Atlanta. I've been within 3 years, we've moved 3 times, and every single time we move, there's more churches around than the actual houses. So that is intimidating, not the knives. So especially when people are just judging you immediately when they just look at you, but then you're like asking them, is everything okay? Oh, no, everything is okay. So I just hate that hypocrisy. But there is a ton of great bands actually in Atlanta. I have to admit that in both Chicago and Atlanta, the metal scene are really strong. But with Khaotika, we did not start with Atlanta because I started to go first where we've already built fan base with my previous band. So, so it was Chicago, St. Louis, in fact, as well, Colorado, and just going all the way west, where I've already covered those parts. And in Atlanta, in order to book a show, it's really hard because you really have to have connections, and I never had any. So it was hard to book anything because nobody knows you, and nobody knows how much people you draw. So we played the first time in Atlanta a year after we already played everywhere else. So we've played 18 states before we played our hometown. So, yeah, I guess it's just the way how you start before, being a small band. You just need to first target states and cities that you've been doing before. So.
Beginning to wrap up with you tonight, when this run of dates is over, what's next for the band? And the obvious question, when can fans expect a follow-up to The Flame Unleashed?
That's a very good question because most likely we will take a break. Not quite sure for how long, and the reason why is because we have a lot to do, and 2 of our members are now together. They have a little baby, and they are, they live in Virginia, and they're trying to establish, their relationship and new family. So it's very challenging, and even having help with the baby, it's still 2 of them taking off for the whole tour. Means no work, no money, right? So it's really hard. And then my second guitarist is also at school, at college, so he has 2 more years to finish his master's degree. And then my drummer, he's the only one that is always up for anything. But but then on the other hand, I guess everybody is just getting too much of the personal things and also other projects too that it's really hard to balance, and so it's really hard to tell exactly when. But with Marco and Austin, we will be making a side project while the other 2 will be taking care of their personal stuff. Yeah, so we'll continue just with the different band for now, and we'll see about the future of Khaotika. But no, definitely we'll be updated.
Awesome. Well, finally, how can fans learn more about Khaotika, and where can they go to purchase music and merchandise from the band, including your album, The Flame Unleashed?
It's just easy. It's just on the website, www.khaotika.com, spelled with both Ks. And don't ask me why, because I have no idea at this point. I think that when I was thinking before, because I've seen too many bands with chaos spelled with C, I figured, well, screw that. I still want to continue with that chaos because it's a part of my life. But to not make it confusing, I'll do it with Ks, and everybody keeps asking. So, long story short, go to our website, Khaotika.com.
Well, I am excited to see you guys tonight. I've heard good things about you all from some tour mates of yours, and really looking forward to this show. And best of luck to you guys on this upcoming tour.
Thank you very much for having us. And for everybody that listens, thank you for listening to the radios, because not many people do. And you are making the difference in metal scene, and continue to support your radio stations.